It is my absolute pleasure to be joined today by author Pauli Hubbard. She is the author of the newly released book, Connections in the Sacred, Finding Your Meaning in the Ordinary. And so, Pauli, tell us about this book.
All right. Well, first of all, I have to say that this is actually the second book in the series. The first was called "Following the Breadcrumbs: Glimpses of God in the Ordinary," and then it was like, well, I'm not done, and so I put together another book called Connections. If you can read it, Connections in the Sacred: Finding Your Meaning in the Ordinary. Um, when you go to school and you sit in front of the HR person and they say, well, Polly, you're just average. And it's like, all your life you're thinking, oh, I need to be something that I'm not. And then it takes forever to learn that you are just stunning just the way you are. And, and so rather than average, I used ordinary. But it's that realization that is so important. So, tell me about the book. Well, it is just what I just said, but I just want to read one little portion on the back cover, if it's okay.
Oh, please.
Okay. The first part is a quote from the writings of Lao Tzu that I really like a lot. I like the book. But it says, without leaving the house, know all things under the sky. Without looking out the window, see Tao in the world. The further you travel, the less you know. Wise people know without traveling, see without naming, and finish their work without doing a thing. How often do we miss the voice of the Spirit in our fanatic pursuit of the Spirit? All the time. It is present and speaking to us in our daily conversations with a friend or a walk around the block with our pet. How easy it is to be distracted by the urgencies of living that we miss the ordinary messages of how to live.
That is so powerful.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess I would just say that this is sort of a continued daily discovery. And what I've done in here, and I'll mention this again, in here is that I've shared a little piece of my story or a memory or whatever, but I've left space and with a question, and I've left space for people to relate, to almost write their own story, because frankly, your own story is far more important than my story. My story is important to me, but if you can relate to something in there, it's almost like, oh, boy, I didn't even think about that. And wow, that is extraordinary. That kind of thing. So to me, if somebody does that, then it's well worth writing a book or really even speaking.
I think that's such a powerful message. And I love the way that you said we always think we're average, right? When really that's wrong. And God
Yeah.
made each of us in our own individual way, like snowflakes are all different, right? And you're right,
Yeah.
everyone is stunning and everyone has their own story. I think you've
Yeah.
put together a very powerful message. And what
Yeah.
was that main point of inspiration where you said, okay, I've got to write this book?
I've been journaling forever, and so, but I would, let me just back up just a little about inspiration, and I'm not sure if this is true, but as I thought about the questions and stuff, I thought, maybe that's when it, like somebody put a flashlight on something. But I've been a daily meditator for, I don't know, 16 years maybe. And boy, it's not perfect. And as you can probably tell, I'm a jabberbox, and so I like to talk, and so the thought of being quiet is something. Well, I finally decided that meditation was all about practice and not perfection, because which is a good thing. Um, but in that quietness, we learn things. It's like, well, how's that possible? How can you be quiet? And I always picture um, um, who I consider a higher power, a divine spirit, and I consider just sitting in that presence. Sometimes it's in a cave, sometimes it's out, and whatever my mind goes to, and so the question is, how in the world can I be changed and can I think differently when I'm quiet? And my conclusion is because for once in our lives, we're quiet so we can hear that inner voice, who I say is God or spirit, and we become attuned to something totally different than what we hear with everything else going around us. And so that's where I'm going as far as inspiration. And then it just becomes sort of a discovery. It's like, I remember the first time I had just begun meditating, and I was in conversation with a friend, and I said something, and they sort of looked at me like, is that coming out of your mouth? Type thing. And I was astounded too. And I went, oh my gosh, that has to be from meditation, because I don't know where that came from, but it seemed like it was that extraordinary, that kind of thing. And I think that's what, if we can just be still enough to be able to understand all the hidden treasures that are within us. It reminds me of a friend of mine knows that I like geodes. And frankly, I moved to Colorado probably about 22 years ago. And before that, it was Ohio. And it was like, I knew there were geodes probably in Ohio, but I never even noticed them until I came out here. And but if you can see, this is just an ordinary rock, it's just me. and yet, who would know that? I don't know if you can really pick this up, but look what's inside.
It's beautiful.
And it just sparkles. I have it in one of my meditation rooms here at the house, and it just keeps that image, on my mind. What else can I say? Because it's isn't it continual?
It's
I mean, that
continual.
Inspiration.
Yeah.
I write all the time. Some of it probably will never be published or that kind of thing. But that discipline helps me to begin seeing what's going on. And probably one more thing I would say on it, and I'm pretty sure that it came as a result of meditation, and that is that life is not a adversarial type, that the experiences are not adversarial. I mean, I grew up thinking they were, but one of the things I've realized is that it's like being in school. Everything is a lesson. Everything can teach me. Now I really, really wish, that when I'm going through a chaotic time, that I could just very rationally say, oh, Polly, this is just a lesson. You'll be fine. Unfortunately, I don't get the lesson probably sometimes for years later, when I look back and say, oh my gosh, what would have happened in my life had I not experienced this at that particular time? And so, and so that's what the book is about too. Is I'm not writing current chaos. in this book. I'm writing things that I've picked up and learned, and frankly, just as soon as I think I've learned something, something else will come up, and I have to relearn what I said I learned. So, here we are.
I think that's true for all of us. You've just got so many good points, and I don't even know what to focus on. You've got so many good points. I love the rock metaphor, like showing the outside and the inside, and I love the way you talk about finding that time away from like the noise of life, to take that time to focus on yourself and find that quiet time. And is there anything else you'd like to share with us today about you, your book, or the message behind the book?
Ah, if I could read one more little passage in here,
Please.
it might be good. Just a
Yeah,
couple.
please.
This is a personal note which is in the beginning of the book, and I'm just going to read the last part of it. And it says, if I could use a magical scalpel to painlessly pierce our hearts, revealing the hidden injuries of a lifetime, you and I would see how much even the most sorrowful experiences have played a part in making you and me critical, connecting pieces in the web of life. No experience is wasted, none. So I invite you to read about my jagged piece of the puzzle of life with the hope that you will be curious to discover and appreciate your own special piece and place. After each of my writings, I have left space for you to ask yourself who you are and how you are connected to others. It is my desire that as you reflect on my connecting piece and on your writings, you will pick up your own mystical flashlight and magical healing scalpel and will come to understand how important you and others are to this life puzzle of which we are each a part. Enjoy the journey.
I love that. And what a great way to end this interview. What a great, great way to end this interview. We want to let everyone know this book by Pauli Hubbard is available everywhere online books are sold. It's available on Amazon, online at Barnes & Noble, Reader House, Apple Books. Pick up this book. Pauli, you are an absolute delight and you are so full of wisdom. And I think everyone can learn from you. So we recommend everyone pick up this book today. And Pauli, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Well, thank you. You too are a delight. You're very easy to talk with. Thank you
Oh,
very
well,
much.
thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.